So we are going to observe the circular flow of Angola, and well, let's explain in a very basic way what's the circular flow. The circular flow, as it shows, is the flow of money and factors of production from households to firms and from firms to households. Uh, Wait, I just need to money. So what it basically consists on is households paying some money to the firms in order to get to receive a service or a good. In this case, also the factors of production, and that's pretty much the circle of flow for now. But uh, observing it in a more deeper way, the money in the circular flow does sometimes leaves the circular flow, or sometimes get new money gets into the circular flow. And in this case, we can see how taxes, imports, and savings are the three main things that are called the leakages, which are some ways in which money leaves the circular flow. And then you have the injections, which are three here: government expanding, exports, and investments, which are basically the new money that gets into the circular flow. So observing in a more deeper way the circular flow, and just observing for now the correlation between government spending and taxes, we can see how through taxes some money is getting out of the circular flow towards the government, and how by the government spending some new money is getting into the circular flow. So taking data from the CIA.gov website, we can see how the budget of Angola is, well, as a revenue, it has $35.43 billion, but this number is not 100% accurate because not all the budget of the, or not all the revenue, sorry, of the government is based on taxes, but it's a pretty much accurate number which can be used as a precise data for this operation. And then you have the expenditures, which are $41.83 billion, that are basically what the government spends on the households on or firms. So it's the money that gets into a circular flow. We can observe that the revenues are the $35.43 billion are just like going all over the circular flow from households to firms. But then these $35.43 are going to get away of the circular flow because they're gonna for example, taxes. So these $35.43 billion are going to taxes for the government, so they're getting out of the circular flow. We can observe how these new 41.83 are going into the circular flow right now. So we can see how at the beginning what seems to be a loss is at the end observing these little operations. 35.43 minus 41.84 equals minus 6.41 in billion US dollars. This is called the budget deficit because it shows that the government has lost $6.41 billion. But these $1 billion, even though they are losses for the government, they are investments, or not investments, sorry, they are like new money that gets into a circular flow. So through this, we can conclude for now only that because of this correlation, the circular flow is gonna like increase its size because it has more money on it. This is the first correlation, the government sector. Then moving to another sector, the foreign sector. This is the correlation between exports and imports in the government. Again, from the CIA.gov website, I got two data that exports in Angola are $37.38 billion and imports are $21.93 billion. And there's a trick thing to understand, and that is that imports is when new material gets into the country. But we're not talking about the materials or goods and services here, but we are talking about the money. So when new material gets into the country, it means that the country has paid to get that materials. Therefore, it's a loss of money for the state itself. So imports are in this case leakages, and the exports are the uh, injections. And here we can conclude because new money is getting into circular flow and some other is leaving again. We can observe that. In this case, the imports will be here, imports and exports. and we can again make the simple math in which 37.38 or 37.38 minus 21 93 is gonna be equals to 15.47. Sorry, and yeah, that basically concludes that 15.47 million billion dollars have been added to the circular flow. So it shows and it proves how at the end of the day the circular flow of Angola is going to wait excuse me is going to increase again. It's gonna be expanded since new injections has occurred. uh, Now moving on, the last correlation that I want to talk about here is the correlation between savings and investments. uh, as we see here, we need to do more math because in the CIA website again, it shows that 2.8% of the GDP is gross national savings. Therefore, that means that 2.8% of the GPA comes from the GPA itself. So in this small operation I did here is like a basic rule of three. We can see how the 2.8% of $185.2 billion, which is the GDP of Angola, we get that is 5.19 billion US dollars. And then for the investments, we can see how, by the data I collected, is $27.25 billion. And this can be used to again calculate how much money gets in and leaves the circular flow. When households save their money, what they're doing is stopping the flow of the money from them to the firms and from the firms back to them in the way of FOP. So savings are leakages, and investments in this case are new money getting into a circular flow. So again, the same operation, 27.25 billion dollars of the investments minus the 5.19 billion dollars of the savings, we get a result of 22.06 new billion dollars that are getting into the circular flow of Angola.